Hi, everybody. It's me. It's Zen again. And I actually want to cut to the chase on this one because I've been seeing a lot of memes and a lot of videos um, with this similar theme, and I feel like we have a misunderstanding. I feel like folks got a misunderstanding, and I want to clarify something and or even remind folks of something because maybe we forgot this idea that anger in and of itself is bad. Like anger in and of itself is bad, right? And so, in other words, the kind of memes that I've been seeing is like, okay, I've been on my healing journey, and then this thing happened, and I had to curse somebody out. I had to bring my unhealed self out and curse somebody out. Um, or I heard somebody, I literally seen a video earlier today when someone said something like, you can take a detour off your healing journey to curse somebody out or put someone in their place and then come back to healing. And it's like, why are we still talking like this? Okay, I need people to understand that anger in and of itself does not mean you're unhealed. We need to stop. We need to stop with the self-judgment, right? We don't realize how much we've internalized. A lot of times people underestimate how much they've internalized from the world before even starting the healing journey, and then they just kind of start it from where they're at as opposed to spending more time unlearning. Okay, healing is as much about unlearning than it is about learning, and I would even go so far as to say it could sometimes actually be more important. um, adding learning on top of what you need to unlearn is just, it jumbles a lot of the information, and it can actually even create confusion. And so especially when you're in the beginning of your healing journey, your spiritual journey, becoming more spiritual, it's really important to understand that becoming more spiritual doesn't necessarily mean simply learning your astrological sign, learning what your rising sign is, learning what your moon sign is, learning what certain crystals do, learning what certain herbs do. If I've seen this once, I've seen this 1,000 times. And if anything, too much learning on top of not unlearning actually creates psychosis. You actually end up going into this psychosis and confusion. You end up messing yourself up even more. So I would go so far as, especially even beginning of your healing journey, really, really, really take time to reflect on what you need to unlearn. For example, anger, right? So I feel like a lot of us have experienced the negative side of anger through trauma, through abusive partners, through abusive dad. I wouldn't say my dad was like all out abusive or whatnot. However, he had kind of a temper. He had kind of a temper that would come out when things wasn't going his way. And I did this where I correlated anger to it being negative, and I would say I spent a good portion of my younger years avoiding anger because I felt like that was the bad thing to do, that I shouldn't respond in anger to anything, that I need to be this sweet and kind person 24/7, and that's toxic. That's just as toxic as somebody who's always angry, right? Because it's not realistic. You're not always feeling good. You're not always feeling happy, and faking it, too much faking it again, you actually just end up in this weird psychosis, and you mess yourself up even more. So let's drop this notion that a healed person can experience anger. I wrote some things down, so if you hear some papers ruffling, it's just a few things. One thing is important to start to understand is even this concept of good and bad, everything being good and bad, right? Like that's the conditioning. We're conditioned in this world to label everything good and bad. This is bad, this is good, this is good, this is bad. It's like someone being fake nice to you to get something from you is not good, right? So there are times when even being nice isn't good. So I personally prefer to think of most things as high vibrational or low vibrational. What are you angry about? Like, what are you angry about? So if you're someone who experienced, maybe you're someone who's overlooked a lot, maybe you're someone who has been taken advantage of in so many ways, and things happen to us that we feel like we didn't deserve, and you likely didn't. And so the anger that comes from the anger that we need to help us stand up for ourselves is good. That's high vibrational. High vibrational anger is being angry for the right reasons. The government taking our rights away. Why shouldn't I respond in some kind of anger? Why shouldn't I be upset about that? And I can feel the anger, but it's what we're forgetting is emotional maturity, being emotionally mature, being spiritually mature, and allowing ourselves to feel the anger without doing something impulsive. That's maturity, as opposed to, I'm going to push down all the anger because I've deemed that to be a bad emotion, and I'm just suck it all down, and we wonder why heart attack is like one of the top killers of people in the world, because we're pushing down all these emotions, we're pushing down our regret, we're pushing down our anger, we're pushing down our frustration, trying to put on a happy face and go about our lives, and then we get this heart attack and we wonder where that came from. Like, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be mad, it's okay to stand up for yourself. What can I say? This is fictional character called the Hulk, right? The Hulk, he was Benjamin Banner. I think they changed his name. That was weird. But anyway, the Hulk, if you recall, in the beginning of him transforming into this Hulk, he did a couple destructive things, and then it made him feel bad about himself, so bad that he decided to take himself out of society. Right? I'm going to take myself away from the world because I don't deserve to be in it. I'm such a bad person. I did all these things. I'm so terrible. And, over the years, he started learning, going within, and, I guess he probably talked to some gurus and whatnot. And he started to gain a deeper understanding of this emotion, anger. And one of my favorite scenes in one of these movies where, the world's being attacked by like robot alien things, and they were just like, we need the Hulk to come help us. And at first he was resistant, like, I don't want to bring that side out of me. And we're just like, well, we need you, like, we're in trouble here, right? The world is being attacked. And so he finally decides to come out to the fight. And I remember there's one scene where he started walking towards the battle, and somebody said, hey, wait a minute, don't you need to get angry first? And he said, that's my secret, I'm always angry. And then he just turned, and he was able to just turn. He understand that anger doesn't have to control you, right? So that's usually that's our usual experience of anger when we're younger, is people being out of control. They get angry, they get out of control. And then we internalize this as children, that anger is just this negative emotion. It's like, no. Anger is important. Really is, what are you angry about? And how do you handle that anger? It's like fire, right? When I think of anger, I think of the element fire. That's why I brought up the Leo Aries. A lot of Leo Aries going on here. Aries is the first sign in the zodiac for a reason, right? Fire is metaphorically sometimes, in order for there to be change, there needs to be a spark, right? We need to set this off. We need to spark something. Fire can be cleansing. Fire, if I want to clear out this space and build something new, I could use fire to do that. I can use a controlled fire to do that. And in fact, we use controlled fires to subdue forest fires. So what do they do when a forest, when a wooded area is burning out of control? They'll go a few feet beyond the fire, and they'll burn the perimeter around it, so that by the time it gets to there, there's nothing else to burn. And so, yes, you drop the water, you do whatever you can do with the water, but you can still use fire to control fire. You can use fire to put out that fire. And so what it really boils down to is maturity. Growing up and recognizing that being angry simply because you're not getting your way, that's being immature. Right? Being angry because of an injustice, that's okay. That's expected. You're also human. Okay? A healed person is allowed to experience anger. One thing I want to also wrote down here is I feel like a lot of folks who have deemed anger bad are also like reformed. I want to say reformed good guys, right? The good guy. There's a saying. Yeah, I'm not gonna go there, but I consider myself to be a reformed good guy, right? Because I was constantly pushing down my anger, constantly pushing down my frustration, because I deemed this negative emotion, even though people are taking advantage of me, people are taking things from me. Because I'm able to smile through it, people tend to assume I've never been through anything. Because I'm able to laugh things off, because I'm able to experience joy anyway. This happens to me often when people assume I must not have been through nothing negative. I must never experience loss. I must have never experienced disappointment or anything like that. And it's like, that's not true. That's not true. I've just taken my time. I'm a little bit older than people think I am, so I spent a lot of time unlearning, unraveling, deconstruct yourself, and get to the root of why you even started believing some of the things that you were believing. What else I wrote down here? Archangel Michael carries a sword. Oya, those who believe, who follow West African traditions, Yoruba and Ifa, who believe in Oya and Shango. Shango carries a machete. Oya carries a lightning whip. Right? The military, our military training is not simply about weapons and fighting, destroying. It's, ideally speaking, it's about defending. It's supposed, right? We can go. This is not a political conversation about the military. I'm just making a general point, right? You learn weapons training, you learn self-defense, but they also learn how to dress a wound. So out in their battlefield, somebody gets shot, they know, okay, we gotta put pressure on the wound. They know how to do a right, what do they call it, makeshift. They know how to make makeshift gurneys. They know how to, you know what I mean? You learn how to take care of each other as much as they learn how to defend each other. It's important. A true warrior knows how to use the bow and arrow and a Band-Aid. Right? You're the first in line to take care of that soldier that's injured. And then you call for the medic and all this other stuff. That medic is also trained to fire their weapon if necessary. Right? So it's really what we're really a large part of becoming more spiritual is actually about becoming more mature. I feel like we've narrowed down spirituality again to learning astrology placements and learning what crystals do. I feel like I've literally watched this in real time. People losing themselves in and becoming more and more scattered, trying to be like, okay, I need to detox this. I need to detox. And it's like, this is one person I hung out with. I won't name no names. It's not a gossip channel. Again, I think I've said this before. But they were talking to me about detox. Like, yeah, I need to do detox. And they're looking up different herbs that they can use to detox. And they're just like, yeah, I'm going to take sea moss twice a day. And then they're like, I've only been doing it once a day, and I was supposed to be doing it twice a day. And I'm like, slow down here, okay? First of all, why are you being so hard on yourself? And you're missing the point. If you're still being hard on yourself, you're missing the point of quote unquote becoming more spiritual. That comes from self-judgment, and that judgment comes from the conditioning. And at the same time, this person, every time I would have a conversation with them, they're just like, yeah, I got into a fight recently. It's like, another one? Like, every time I have a conversation with you, talking about I just got into a fight. And then you go straight into, I need to learn how to detox. It's like, friend, what's good at detoxing your body if you're not detoxing your behavior? How are you in this many fights? We're adults now. Like, I get it. Stuff happens sometimes. Person catch an attitude with you, and like, we're not children anymore, right? I used to be I used to work in education, and I remember working in this summer camp situation, and these kids were fighting constantly. If you're always fighting, you're not maturing. We're adults now, right? Have your words. You want to curse somebody out, curse them out. What are you fighting for? The older you get, the more you're risking injury. Right? We're adults. We have too many responsibilities to be out here just fighting, getting injured. Now you got to be in the hospital. Now you got a hospital bill. Now you're thinking about getting a surgery. And in the same breath, you're like, yeah, I need to detox. And that's like, you're missing the point. You're missing the point, okay? So let me simplify becoming more spiritual by saying being more mature, like growing up. The Bible says, when I was a child, I did what children do, and as I become an adult, I put away childish things, right? And so having a temper because you're being a spoiled brat, come on now. Life doesn't always go the way we want them to go. And then that's where the deconstructing needs to come in. That's where the reflection needs to come in, and asking yourself questions like, why did I want this to begin with? Why did I want this? Why did I want this? Go within. Maybe spirit had a purpose for me before I got in my head and start thinking, I need to have this, and I need to do this. I need to have this. I need to have this car. I need to have this kind of girlfriend. I need to have this kind of boyfriend, right? We're still buying in. A lot of folks are still buying into the society conditioning, and which is missing the point. You're not becoming more spiritual if you're still doing that. And so I say all the time, when I give my little readings and stuff, and people start saying things like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be learning this astrology. I think, and they think there's something they're supposed to be learning to be more spiritual. I keep saying that I'm gonna learn some astrology, and just whatever reason, I just never start. And then now they're making themselves feel bad, and I say, whoa, slow down. Maybe that just don't resonate for you. It's a lot of tarot readers in here who will tell you I'm not an astrologer. I started off being an astrologer, and I would have told you 10, 15 years ago, like, I don't do tarot cards. I mean, I do them now, like, I evolved. I allow myself to evolve and spirit and go within and listen to my spiritual guidance, as opposed to being in my head and being in my ego. I was a little bit in my ego with astrology, and I'm like, cards is okay. To me, astrology is, it's all complicated and technical, and I'm being a smartass, really. You know what I'm saying? Once I let go of that ego and I realized, and I started to listen to the spiritual guidance, as opposed to being in my head and making doing things I think I'm supposed to be doing, and then making myself feel bad because I didn't do it. I just slowed down. I went within. I started to listen to spirit better, right? There's a song that goes, and if you're quiet, you can hear God's voice. If you listen, you can hear God's voice, and if you're quiet, you will make the right choice. So get quiet, relax, listen to the spiritual guidance. Is spirit guiding you to flip some tables right now? Jesus flipped tables. We love talking about this Jesus, what would Jesus do types crap, and then get upset at ourselves because we flip some tables. Maybe that's exactly what Spirit is guiding you to do, flip those tables. Oh, what I was getting at with the tarot cards was I recognized that I needed to recognize that astrology was a bit complicated. And I feel like sometimes when we're being too technical and complicated, we're actually creating a wedge between us and people. And tarot cards are simpler. They're just little cards. You can put down on the table. The person getting the reading can look at the card. It's pictures. It's less intimidating. Right? Spirit is letting me know, like, hey, you're out here to be a healer for people, and right now tarot cards are becoming more popular, and it's simpler, it's less intimidating. We need you to connect. We need you to connect with these people. How am I supposed to be a healer in the world and I'm not connecting to people? And recognizing that my energy is healing, right? My energy is healing. Being the kind of person I am is healing. Being a good listener is healing, whether I know astrology or not. Being someone who's capable of loving unconditionally. Being someone who's capable of listening unbiasedly. That's healing. Somebody feeling heard. A person can sit in front of me and feel like, oh, this person can really see me. It can be really lonely out here, not feeling seen, not feeling like anybody's really listening to you. That's why therapy, large part of therapy is just having an unbiased person to talk to. So there's some sirens. I'm just gonna pause for a sec, and I like to see these sirens as a confirmation. Ambulances are confirmation for me. And maybe I also need to pause for a sec, right? So what I was getting at was the reformed good guy, right? The reformed good guy, you're learning how to defend yourself. A large part of maturing is recognizing that we need to parent ourselves, right? We need to parent ourselves. And stereotypically speaking, we think of the mother as the nurturer, the father as the protector, right? And so as we become mature adults, we learn how to nurture ourselves as well as protect ourselves. It's okay to protect yourself. You don't not lock your door because you think that makes you look mean, do you? Like, no, you have a lock on your door for a reason. There are thieves out there. I'm gonna leave my door open because that's the nicer thing to do. It's like, is it? But is it responsible? Right? Isn't it true that there are thieves in the world? Yes, there are. And it's it's okay to protect. Let's see, what else did I write down here? Fire is life. Fire is warmth. We cook with fire. We boil water with fire. We light the way with fire. Before we had flashlights and street lamps, we had little fire lanterns. Right? It's so... that's the last thing I wrote down over here. Pardon the ruffling. Fire is passion. And so sometimes I recognize for myself too, when I was pushing down my fire, I was actually pushing down my passion itself. Like, I'm very passionate. I'm actually pretty fiery. it took me a little while to realize that I'm way more fiery than I even thought I was. I just was in this environment, you know, I was in an environment where maybe my fire wasn't being fed. Right? If you're surrounded by a bunch of haters, they'll just without you realizing it, just just keep throwing water on your fire. Oh, it's too much fire. Let me put some water on that. It's like, no. I met someone a while ago, and they had a lot of fire in their chart. They had like 4 Sash placements. They had like a Leo placement, and there was a lot of fire. And the analogy I gave them, I said, right now you're Pyro, right? And in X-Men, right? I like the X-Men stories. So remember, in X-Men we had Pyro. Pyro, he was able to manipulate fire. Notice I use the word manipulate, right? So when we're less mature about fire, we actually are manipulative. He's able to manipulate fire. He cannot produce it. And I said, you keep squelching your fire because the world keeps projecting onto you that it's too much. Maybe it's too much for them, right? So, it's too much. You need to put that fire down a little bit. It's too hot in here. You know that saying, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, right? They can't take your heat, then they need to get out your kitchen, is what I was trying to relate to them. And I said, right now you're a Pyro. Right now you're Pyro. And if you were to allow this fire to consume you, face the fear, whatever these fearful notions you have about fire, allow that fire to consume you, you could become Johnny Blaze. Johnny Blaze produces fire. He's fully consumed in it, and he can fly. And he's a superhero, right? Pyro, the one who manipulates fire, what did he do? He left the X-Men and joined Magneto. He said, actually, I want to be on that team. I want to be with the bad guys. Why? Because he's also young, right? Not mature yet. Maturity is recognizing, in other words, if he were to have a good teacher, they could teach him how to actually produce fire. But that's an X-Men conversation. We don't have to go there. Passion, punk rock music. So a lot of things are born out of passion, and a lot of beautiful art is born out of rage, right? One of my favorite bands is Rage Against the Machine. It's amazing, screaming to a mic. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but punk rock comes from rebelling against the system. The system that said you need to be clean cut. The system that said you have to have this kind of education, you have to have this kind of job, you have to have this kind of wife, you have to have kids. The system that keeps telling you what you got to do. I feel like that punk rock era comes out of this rebelliousness. It's like, well, maybe I don't want to do any of that. And maybe I do want to do that, but not because you told me to. Let me find my own way, right? So it's like that screaming, that scream of rebellion. And rap music comes from the same energy, especially early rap music. There's a song that came out a long time ago. Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Where did that come from? If you ever see that music video, another line is like, broken glass everywhere. People pissing on the corners, man. They just don't care. Really, he was just talking about the frustration of living in a hood, seeing crackheads, buildings falling apart. Nobody cares, right? Out of that anger came art. It's one thing I'm learning how to do right now, actually, is to transmute my anger and frustration into art. I would love to maybe do some some punk rock music one day. It's loud, the headbanging, it's great. The mosh pits, swinging swinging around in a mosh pit. Maybe you hit somebody, maybe they hit you. It's a great way to get aggression out, if you ask me. It's a great way, as opposed to just walking around with attitude, looking to start a fight. Go into a mosh pit. Where people want to get hit. Maybe getting punched in the face is therapy for you right now, for where you're at right now. That's okay. Go out there. Matter of fact, the friend that I mentioned earlier who liked to fight, I'm like, well, in my brain, because we never able to have this conversation, I'm just in my brain, I'm like, then why don't he just become a fighter? If you like to fight, find a gym. Go on YouTube. You can learn how to box on YouTube. I do it. I do it all the time. I look up, because I'm always looking for different exercise routines. I like to see what the boxers are doing. I like to see what the martial arts folks is doing. I also, I've always wanted to, when I was a kid, I did taekwondo and stuff like that, right? That's a great way to get a lot of that aggression out. Play some football. Organize sports, right? And so we don't have to, we need to get out of this. We need to get out of this thing where expressing anger is your unhealed self. No, okay? Let me also say, if you have healed, there is no unhealed part of you. Technically, are you healed or are you not? And healing does happen in layers. Maybe you healed some part of you, maybe you didn't heal some other part of you. Maybe you're still in denial that there's something there that still needs healing. So when people say, oh, I was on my healing journey, and then I took a step out of the healing journey so that I could do something, it's like, that's making an excuse, right? There's a part of you that's still immature. That's reality. Reality is a part of you still immature, looking for an excuse to do something, you're not supposed to do. And you're just going to say, well, that's my unhealed self. It's like, maybe that's your immature self looking for an excuse to do something you just want to. Do you really want to heal or don't you? Do you really want to mature or don't you? Do you want do you want us to live in a better world or don't you? Do you want peace? Do you want world peace or don't you? There is no world peace without peaceful people. And yes, maybe some of that peace needs to come from some activism, right? That's what activism is, right? Going out there and protesting, making the signs and saying, hell no, we won't go. And stuff of that nature. I feel like the system, folks, I feel like they did a really good job at making it seem like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King are so different. I feel like we did this in Black Panther, right? You had Black Panther and what's his name, Killmonger, right? And I'm like, to each his own, right? Maybe Malcolm X is your style, maybe Killmonger is your style, and maybe we need both. What happens if Killmonger and Black Panther come together and say, hey, instead of fighting each other, we can fight the system that pitted us against each other. Pardon, I'm just pausing for a sec. I have an audience. So I like sometimes over, when folks walk by when I'm doing these things and overhearing a little bit of a conversation, I hear it saying why would you do that? Why would you do it that way, right? So people, sometimes we just are making excuses to stay immature. And, right, even if you never take the time to learn astrology, signs, and placements, even if you never take the time to learn crystals and what they do, if you are focused on maturing and just being a better version of yourself, then you are being more spiritual. That's it. It's that simple. We need to get out of our heads. We're in our heads too much, which again is a large part of if I were to simplify healing and spirituality, I would actually say it's unlearning, is unlearning, is unblocking, right? Unblocking the energy that's trying to go all the way through, right? We tend to lock up our hearts, which is why we're in our heads so much. We're not trusting our gut, right? You have 3 brains. You have your brain up here, you have your brain here, and you have your brain here. There's 3. This is your holy trinity. Allow them to work together. It's okay. Sometimes you need to make a head over heart decision, and sometimes you need to make a head with your heart decision. And a lot of times you need to be trusting your gut, because your gut will tell you if you're even in the right place. Maybe you're fighting a fight you don't even need to be fighting. Maybe you're not even supposed to be where you're at right now, and you're missing the signs. I see this all the time. I'm so mad, I'm so angry. What do you mean you angry? This keeps happening, that keeps happening. I've done a lot of readings. I've had a lot of phone calls with folks, and they'll call me up and be like, yeah, this thing happened, these people did this, and it's so messed up, and these people did that, and that's so messed up. And I'm like, well, why do you keep going over there? Right? Keep going back to where you constantly need to defend who you are and what you're about. Why do you keep going over there? Right? That's where the maturity needs to come in at. Sometimes you need to back away from a situation. And when you're able to see the bigger picture, you start to recognize why certain things really just had to happen the way they happen. What's the point of being more spiritual to not listen to your spiritual guidance? What is the point? If you're not learning how to listen to spiritual guidance, then everything else is really just you having fun, because that's doing what everybody else is doing, because now you get to fit in. I'm gonna learn, the healing community. I'll be honest with you, healing community to me is the most dysfunctional. Like, we call ourselves a healing community, but it's too much coddling. If you ask me, it's too much coddling. It's a lot of spiritual psychosis. It doesn't matter really what you're learning if you're not unlearning at the same time. It doesn't matter what you're learning if you're not unlearning at the same time. So we're having this blood moon, right? Let's talk about blood. Blood is life force, right? The menstruation cycle, right? Those who menstruate have periods. I'm not going to say trigger warning. It's a period. It's a menstruation. If you have one, you have one, right? That's for cleansing. It cleanses your blood. It cleanses your blood. It's for releasing. So we have this blood full moon coming up. And when's the last time you howled at the moon? When's the last time you took yourself to a remote area and yelled and screamed into the sky, into the trees, into the water? I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore. It feels really great. It's called a guttural. Sometimes some people call it a guttural yell. When's the last time we literally yelled from deep within the pit of us? I think it's something I'm gonna do this weekend. Just go somewhere, just go, scream, howl, say all the curse words. It's like, it'll really help recenter yourself. It'll really help recenter you. I feel like that's also what we're learning with this whole Pisces Virgo, right? When I think of Pisces, I actually think of like a feminine masculine energy. And when I think of Virgo, I think of like a masculine feminine energy. So I feel like there's this balancing of the masculine and feminine. We tend to think of Pisces as being someone who lives in a fantasy world, right? Which is interesting that their opposite sign is Virgo, who tends to be over analytical. And imagine you could bring those two together, right? Imagine if you can find a balance between that Pisces energy and that Virgo energy, where it's like, it's okay to have a fantasy, it's okay to have a dream, But then when you tie that in with that Virgo energy, you can actually create a solid plan to get it done. Like, that was one of my bad habits as a triple Aquarius, right? We tend to be such futuristic thinkers, and sometimes it turns into hopeful wishing, and then we're not doing the practical thing now that would help us build towards it. So that's one thing. That's where I'm balancing myself out a lot too over the last couple of years. Is it's okay to have passion. It's okay to have fantasy. It's okay to play. It's okay to play in the fantasy world. It's okay to imagine the best case scenario. Maybe we need to, that's part of also going within and maybe asking yourself why you. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the time. I have a few minutes left. I'm wrapping it up. What part of you is afraid to dream anymore? Right? Some of that. Sometimes when we think we're frustrated about our situation, we're not. That's not what we're really frustrated about. Right? It's not what's happening right now. That's why I'm really frustrated. It's my situation ain't ideal, and I can bellyache about it all day. But what am I actually doing about it? It's like some part of me expected to magically be somewhere else, even though I didn't really work towards being somewhere else. Right? And so I got more practical. I started building towards this fantasy, and also, it's okay. It's okay to, I'm gonna say, not judge yourself along the way. There's this saying people had some time ago where they would say, hey, reach for the stars, and if for whatever reason you don't reach those stars, maybe you reach the clouds, and that's still pretty high. The fantasy is really just there to help move you forward. Maybe you don't get that exact fantasy that you fantasize, but that fantasy was really just to get you going and get you excited about life, so that you start build towards it. And you'd be surprised sometimes if you just start building towards it, that you end up with something maybe different but just as good or even better. So let life surprise you a little, as opposed to being over, too much of a control freak, like that Virgo energy. Virgo energy can be a little bit of a control freak. I feel like one of the reasons why Virgos are very self-conscious is because they're just always picking themselves apart. They're always overanalyzing. It's like, oh, I would go for that, but I'm too this, and then this. I'm too short. I'm too. I'm too small for that. I'm too big for that. I don't know. Go for it. See it more as a carrot on the stick. That is. Sometimes spirit is putting a carrot on the stick just to get you to move forward from where you're at. It's called analysis paralysis. Like, I've definitely been prone to analysis paralysis. I believe I have a Virgo house placement, to be honest. And so I actually believe I have a Virgo house placement and a Pisces house placement as an Aquarius, right? And so it's like, okay, Spirit is showing me the possibilities just to get me unstuck so that I can go move towards it. Okay, I know we're starting to change the subject a little bit, so I guess I'll stop now. And, we got this, y'all. We got this. All right, take care, everybody.